Okay, hello everyone, and sorry for a few minutes of delay. So we were experiencing some problems with the internet connection, but now we are here. I can see that the people are joining. So if you could use the chat and type it, if you can see me and if you can see the slides and if you can hear me. Okay, we've got Carolina, so the chat is working. We've got Dorota, Sanya. Great. Hi, Veronica. So today we've got 50 minutes ahead of us about the listening skills and the computer-based test. So we'll cover this element and we'll see how you can help your future test takers to work on these particular skills. And you'll see if there is an element that in our ELT coursework that you can use to work on those skills. We'll be using chat, so feel free to interact with me. And this is the Pearson English International Certificate computer-based test. And the session today is on the listening skills, and there is one more session on computer-based testing best practice. And to start with, probably you know it because we had several sessions in before that the computer-based test, it's about the integrated skills. So it's not only about testing one specific skill. So although we'll be talking about the listening section, as you can see in the slide, it's not only about the listening section, but it's about the listening and speaking, listening and reading. So the integrated skills, the skills that are actually used in real life scenarios, because usually when you listen to something, either you have to write it down or you have to convey the message in a different form. You have to report it to somebody. So the real life scenario skills, and actually all those skills are almost all the skills are tested in a way, and we'll go through all those elements one by one. And the last time, I think we had like a helpful dog, and we're gonna have a happy cow right now. So when you see on the slide a cow, I want you to use the reaction button, and there are three options. The one is like this tada option. So it means that, okay, my students know this item type really well. The thumbs up, they are quite familiar with it. And the third one, the open mouth, this is the name on Zoom. This is they've never heard of this item type. And can you please try and test these reactions? Okay, I can see that the reactions are going. So you know how to use it. So whenever we'll start with an item type and you'll see the cow, I want you to use the reaction to see if your students at this moment, the groups that you are teaching right now are familiar with this item type. They know it quite well because it's quite obvious for them, and they are really familiarized with this item type, or maybe they've never heard of it, and the message will be that they need more practice in this reality. So we'll start off immediately with the first one, listen and repeat. So this question asks the learner to listen to a sentence or a short text and then repeat it. Okay, I can see the reactions are going. So use so they know it quite well. They know it quite well, and they are quite familiar. So yeah, this is good to know. So this is the listening comprehension. So usually you'll get 10 to 12 tasks of this kind. The sentence difficulty will vary, of course, from level to level. The recordings last between 3 to 9 seconds, and there are around 15 seconds to repeat the sentence. And they need to repeat exactly what they hear, like adding extra words or omitting some words will make them lose points in this particular item type. So the instruction says that you need to listen to the recording and you need to repeat the sentence exactly as you hear it, okay? And you'll hear the sentence once only, so they don't get the second chance. They cannot play it back, and they cannot replay it back just to hear it again. So as we had, this is like with the computer-based test, it's only about going forward, so you cannot go backwards. So the sentences that you potentially you could hear, so these are the example sentences. Unfortunately, on my side, there is a technical problem, so I cannot play the audio. Sorry for it. But these are the sentences potentially that they could hear on various levels, starting with the lower levels, and you'll get the higher levels closer to the middle or to the bottom one, and they need to repeat the sentences. Looking at this item type, I've prepared some true or false questions for you. So can you just have a look at it and put your answers in the chat, okay? If it's true or false. So listen and repeat task assess both listening and speaking skills. So use the chat and type it in the chat. Is it true or false? Yes, thanks a lot, Elena. The test takers must repeat a few simple words for each task. That's a bit tricky one. Okay, we'll see. And there are 6 listen and repeat tasks on each test. True or false? And the last one, they need to repeat the keywords only. Yes. So to tell you the truth, because some of you might be surprised, so the first one is true. Yes, both listening and speaking. However, the second one is rather false, because I would say that they must repeat a sentence, complete sentence, or a short spoken text. It's not a few simple words. They will be exposed to a real sentence. So it's not gonna be that they will have a separate words which are not connected with each other. The third one is also false, because there are 10 to 12 items per test of this activity. So listen and repeat, not 6. And the last one, of course, is false, because they must repeat all the words that they hear. So now, once you have this type of activity, before we move on, can you use the chat and suggest a simple activity that you would use right now just to train for this item type? Okay, can you just create a simple sentence? What could you do to train this item type in the preparation course with the resources that you have right now? Any ideas? What could you do to train for this item type within your language classes at this moment? If you could use your chat and share with me any ideas. If you don't know, you can write, I don't know. Read a sentence with a different intonation, a different pace, different emotions. Okay, thanks a lot, Svetlana. Great. So we'll see. So there are several elements, and some of them we'll do the mini demonstration right now. But the first one, please remember that course book, this is the elements that you are using right now. So whether you're working with the Gold Experience, Roadmap, Speak Out, or for example, the Business Partner, the listen and repeat, you've got the various listening activities within the course books. Okay, so either you can follow the standard activity, or basically you can use the existing and prepared listings for training for this activity. So you play the recording, you pause it, and basically you ask the group to repeat what they've heard, just of course paying attention to the appropriate level. There is a game which I once heard is called In the Shoes Of. There is something you can do with drilling. So this is like using those listening activities, playing and asking the group to repeat. You can set yourself as a gold standard, just present the example and ask individual students to repeat. I'm going to show you what you can do, what your students could do with the WhatsApp or the back-to-back interviews on Zoom or the video clip challenge. So the first one, it's the game called In the Shoes Of. And could I have my two lovely assistants appear and unmute themselves? Okay. So there is one, and is there another person?
Hello.
Yes. So we've got Ida, Brigitte, are you there?
Yes.
Okay, great. So that's the game. My dear audience, what I want you to do is, can you write a sentence in the chat? Whatever the sentence you want, a single sentence, okay? The first person will be the example, okay? Any sentence, one complete sentence in the chat, please. Long or short, or somewhere in the middle.
The rain in Spain.
You will be the, yes, the doer. Let's wait for the audience. One sentence, please. Okay, yes. Too many. Okay, I love good coffee in the morning. Okay, so Ida, now imagine you are an angry officer, okay? And I want you to say this sentence in a manner of an angry officer. And Brigitte, I want you to copy Ida, okay?
I love good coffee in the morning.
Brigitte?
I love good coffee in the morning.
Great. Okay. And now we've got, I've just bought a new pair of shoes. So the role for you, Brigitte, will be an excited teacher. Just try to say this sentence in a manner of excited teacher.
I just bought a new pair of shoes.
Great. Ida, can you copy, Brigitte?
I've just bought a new pair of shoes.
Yes. Great. And one more example. No matter what he was expected to meet the deadline. Ida, imagine you are the rebellious teenager, and this is the sentence for you. No matter what, he was expected to meet the deadline. Okay, say it in a manner.
No matter what, he was expected to meet the deadline.
Okay, Ida, can you copy? Brigitte, can you copy Ida?
No matter what, he was expected to meet the deadline.
Great, thanks a lot. So basically, it's very simple because either you can ask the group to come up with the sentences. You can open any page on the course book, select the sentences. Feel free to create your own roles, okay? But make sure there is an adjective that the roles, they should be quite familiar to the students depending on the level, but either you can set the example yourself, and then the group just tries to copy you the intonation, okay, your pace, the way you pronounce the words, and you can have it as a nice warm-up activity at the very beginning, in the middle, at the very end, training with the new vocabulary. This is totally up to you. And for the last one, for example, a bored office worker, Małgorzata wrote, "Hello, everyone from Poland." Okay, this is me, my improvising with saying the sentence with a being bored office worker. The second one is called the back-to-back interviews or the /Zoom, because what we need to know is we need to remember that they will be doing the listening. So it might be the good option to arrange small interviews. However, they are not facing each other, because when you're looking at the person, you're supporting yourself by looking at their lips. Okay, you do that small amount of lip reading. So you might ask the groups to turn around, or when they are the teenagers, you can say you can do your favorite activity and you can turn off your camera. Okay, so you create a question And then you ask students to interview each other, just that they are not facing each other. And the other person is trying to remember or write down all the answers, and they can report back after the interview. So this is the basic activity. An activity with a flavor is you find various celebrities, fictional characters, and you prepare the list of those fictional characters, and you assign those characters to one person in a pair, and this person has to answer the question in a manner of being this fictional or not fictional character and providing this information. And by the end of the interview, the group has to decide, or the other person was asking the question, they have to guess who is this person, okay? They have to name this person. And Brigitte and Ida, I've prepared a mini presentation right now. So are you ready? Let's start with Ida. Ida, you'll be asking questions. Brigitte, you have your role given, and you have to reply to Ida's questions in a manner of being this person. And dear teachers, by the end of the interview, you need to guess Brigitte's personality. Okay, Ida, start.
Okay, what do you do in your free time?
Oh, in my free time, I look after my reindeers, and yeah, I do a lot of shopping for wrapping paper.
And what job do you do?
Oh, I do a job is all concentrated on one night of the year.
And what clothes do you wear for work?
I wear a red suit, black boots.
Yes, we've got the people Santa. Yes, that's true. Thanks a lot. But the next one might be more difficult. Brigitte, you are asking questions, and Ida, you are replying in a manner of being this person. And dear teachers, let's try to guess. Huh? Go on.
Okay, Ida, what do you do in your free time?
I read, I brood a lot, and sometimes I entertain beautiful women.
Okay, and what job do you do?
I fight corruption and save people.
Wow. What clothes do you wear for work?
All black, always, and a cape. Well, and a cap to match the cape.
Yes, thanks a lot, Joanna. Okay, 007, no better, Joanna, Batman. Yes, thanks a lot. So this is the activity that you can actually get students to train the listening skills in a fun way when they will be training for the listen and repeat, because after the activity, you can ask them to repeat the sentences or to make a small report. This is up to you. So in the shoes of back-to-back interviews, the video clip challenge, basically playing the video with the vision on or with the vision off, just to make it more difficult, and ask them to repeat. And students do use the mobile communicators, so they use the WhatsApp for sure. So you might suggest as an example activity for the groups. So they usually probably know each other's phone numbers and contacts. If not, they can introduce like the activity for this week or for this month. And one person is sending a voice message to the other person in English. So there are pairs, and the other person has to reply, but not answering the question, but has to reply by recording their own voice message and copying exactly the same sentence. So in this way, they will be using the devices that they have at their disposal, that they are accustomed to using, and they will be using voice recorders. So they will train for the computer-based testing. Of course, using the course books. You've got the listening activities, you've got the videos activities. All you need to do is to use the recording. You can play the recording, you can pause the recording, and you can ask the group to repeat the sentence. So the several elements for you to practice on various levels. Those interviews, back-to-back interviews, either you can create your own celebrities or you can create fictional characters, or you can just look at the units. For example, these ones are taken from roadmap, and you can assign the roles basing on the interview that you are dealing with. So one person might be the tourist agent, the shop assistant, the traveler, the Arctic station worker, depending on the level and depending on the unit that you are dealing with on a particular lesson. So please remember that when you train for these activities, they need to the candidates needs to pay attention to the intonation, copying the intonation, not the accent. Okay, this is important. One of the false assumptions is that they need to copy the accents. Of course, it's good to sound really native, but it's not about copying the accent, but it's about copying the stress, copying the intonation, and just paying attention how do speakers link the words into the longer phrases. The second item type, listen to a conversation. So you have the description. You can use your reaction buttons to tell me if your candidates are already familiar, they know it quite well, or maybe they've never heard of it. Okay. I can see that quite familiar. Okay, so there is a short conversation. Okay, and then there is a question about this conversation. So you need to remember that the answer should be really simple. Okay, one of the false assumptions is that the candidates expects, okay, I'm gonna create a really complex sentence. It's not the way to go for this activity. The answer should be really simple, using a word or just a few words. And this is the knowledge we need to convey in the preparation course. A few comprehension questions for you about listen to the conversation. Okay, if you could select the correct choice. Okay, looking at the things you have. What about the first one? Okay, yes. What about number 2? What about number 2? Good, yes. That's true. It could be about the general description of a situation, or it could be about the specific detail. And what about the last one? And now you know it, all one or few words, so not full sentences and not as many words as possible. Just the more complex I sound, the better the score, not in this reality. So here are the things that you can work on. So the course books, you'll have quite a few. You have a lot of listings when you have the conversation and various dialogues, and you'll have the questions to given to match those dialogues, and you can work on it. So using the prepared material. One of the extra option is the going for the role play. The role play, marriage and milk. This is my working name, but the role play is that you have 2 variations. Which variations would you like to listen as the first one? The standard or advanced, dear teachers? Can you use the chat and say which one do you feel might be more interesting, the standard or the advanced version? The advanced, Yelena. Sorry, Brigitte and Ida. So you'll go for the advanced version. Can you unmute yourself?
Yes.
Great. So the task for you right now is imagine you're a couple, okay, a marriage. One of you is preparing something at home, cooking dinner. The other person went shopping, and the first point on the list was buy milk. The person comes home and he or she failed to buy milk. I want you to create a mini dialogue around 6-7 sentences, like a typical conversation in a relationship when one person forgot to buy milk and the other person needs to have the milk to prepare a cake. Off you go.
Okay, so I'm coming home, right? I made a mistake. So.
Yes.
Hello, darling. How is the cooking going?
It's fine. Thank goodness you're home. I was waiting for you to be able to put the milk into the recipe.
Oh, milk. Well, was that on the list? I can't really remember.
Oh, no, don't tell me you've forgotten the milk.
I'm really sorry. I must have just, completely blocked it off. I'm sorry, but I didn't bring the milk.
Oh, no. Well,
Can't you use sour milk? Yogurt.
Well, we could try and use yogurt. They say necessity is the mother of invention. So let's take that on. Let's try.
Okay. Thanks a lot. Okay. Dear teachers, what's the solution in this situation? What will they use instead of milk? Can you type it in the chat? Yogurt, Yelena. Thanks a lot. Okay. So the basic option with the lower level students is you assign the topic depending on the unit. For example, it could be the shop assistant and the customer, the waiter and the customer, the office worker, and the director. Just looking at the words that you are dealing with in a particular unit, and you ask them to create a mini dialogue, 5 up to 6-7 sentences. Then they need to train the dialogue, and you can ask some of the groups to perform the dialogue in front of the class, in front of the mini teams. And then you as a teacher can ask extra questions at the end of a dialogue for the group to answer. So this is the choice for the lower level learners. When you've got the advanced learners, you can go for this option as I did, because my dear and lovely support, they weren't informed of this role play. So basically you take, you give their name, you give the roles, and you ask them to perform in public and to perform it live, to create the mini dialogue with the advanced level learners, and then you can ask extra follow-up questions. This is the one activity to liven up the listening skills. You can go for the videos by any means. So once you play the video, you pause it, and then you ask comprehension questions. In case you have the access to the teacher's material, you can go for the tape scripts, and you can use the tape scripts, and you ask the candidates to work on the tape scripts with the dialogues. With the really advanced groups, a good option for this type of activity would be to have a debate within the groups of 3. So you find a good topic that is matching the age of the learners, and you divide the class within the groups of 3, and you assign the roles. One person is for, the other person is against, and the third person is listening to the debate and taking notes, because he or she will have to report by the end of the debate to the class. And please try to make sure that all the people would be the listeners at some point, because it's not only about the language development and the speaking skills, it's about the listening comprehension and developing listening skills to work with the computer-based test item practice. And the name of the debate and the themes should be related to the knowledge and to the current theme of your particular students. So there's several options to work off. Of course, when you work with the books, like the Gold Experience or the Roadmap, sometimes you've got the recordings and you've got the options. You hear 2 friends talking about the film. What do they agree about? So you have the options given. all you need to do is you can ask your students, or you can use the curtain in the digital tools just to cover the options, and you have questions prepared, and they need to listen and they need to answer without looking at the options. Or the other example, once they have the conversation, then the questions are already there. So this is exactly what is being tested in the computer-based test. Okay, taking short notes. If I were you, I would remember that one of the key options is to teach your students to take notes effectively. Remember that they will not have time to write everything down. Just focusing on the most important words, teaching them what is the keyword, just working with the tape script and just showing them, okay, and what are the keywords in this particular listening. So these are the words you could try to remember and take notes and note down so that it will be easier for you to answer the question. Remember that in this item type, short answer and simple answer is satisfactory. They don't have to go for the really long and complex sentences. Okay, choosing the right picture. Okay, what about the reactions right now? You see the description of this item. It's only on levels A1 and A2. Okay, some of you click it that they know it quite well. So there is a short passage, and later on, they need to choose the correct picture. So they listen to a story. Since it's A1 and A2, the story is between 30 and 40 words. There are 6 or 7 item types of this type per test. And then they will hear 3 questions. And looking at then they need to choose the correct picture that represents the answer for the particular question. So in the first place, they listen to a story, and then as an example, they have 3 questions, and they need to choose the correct answer. When you work with the low-level learners, and this is the work with the images. So I think it was on the reading section that I told you about spot the difference. It's a really nice activity just to work with the visual aspects. So you open the unit on the general English course books, and you make use of the photos that are present there, just asking them to compare and contrast just to spot the differences. You can go for the internet options, just typing playgrounds, the supermarkets, the hotel, whatever you want to convey in a particular lesson, and you press search for graphics, and you'll get no shortage of various pictures representing the theme of your choice. And then you present them on the screen, on the projector, and you ask students to make comparisons between these 2 or these 3 pictures, just allowing them to work with the vocabulary and at the same time to work with images. Okay, so the very basic levels, A1 or A2, it's not about giving a spoken answer, it's about selecting the correct pictures. Sometimes at the very basic levels, it's good to convey the message that there are question words, who, what, and how, and where, and they need to pay attention to the story because it might be the case that the answers will be referring to some of the keywords and it will be represented in the graphic form. As with the reading and choosing the correct pictures, all pictures might be quite similar, but there might be one element which stands out in a particular picture. That's why this spot the difference exercise comes in handy. Okay. Passage comprehension, okay? Starting with the levels B1 and going above, okay? So you've got the description and looking at your levels right now and the level of familiarity with this item type. There is a short passage. So it's not a conversation, it's one person talking. And usually, depending on the level, it's between 40 and 60 words for levels B1, B2. And there are 60 and 80 words with the levels C1 and C2. And there are 6 or 7 item types of this particular type. Okay, and this short passage is played once only. Okay, so you listen to the story, And then you hear 3 questions, and you have to answer each question in turn. Okay, so first the story, then you hear the questions. So once you have you need to have the ability to retain the information and to bring the information from the story so that you could answer those questions effectively. Okay, can you look at this small gap fill summary activity talking about passage comprehension, and can you try and complete this activity using the chat? What about the first one? Both, okay. A, details, great. What about next one? Take. 2C, take notes selectively. Yes, because this is a one person telling a story. So selective note taking really comes in handy. What about the third one? The questions might relate to the speaker's attitude. Yes. So as someone wrote at the very beginning, you need to pay attention to how they feel. So reading the emotions. And you need to speak at a normal volume and use accurate pronunciation. Okay, so what can you do in this element? So the course book is with the listening activities. So you've got the questions which are already prepared. The key element, well, in general, this is one of the top skills for the listening activity. This is like pay attention to voice familiarity, or actually try to remove voice familiarity from the language classes. So what you can do, depending on the level, you can Google the weather forecast and just finding the name of a foreign TV station, whether the Australia, United States, Europe, the different countries, you name it, and you offer exposure to various accents. This is the first element. If you have a chance, if you have a native speakers, or if you have a different foreign language speakers within your school, from time to time, you can ask them to come to your lesson and to present a paragraph, or to read a paragraph, or to tell a short story, so that the students will get used to the different accents, to different intonations. It's not only that this is my teacher's sound and this is my teacher's voice, and I recognize the voice and I can answer the questions because the voice is so familiar. Just trying to remove the familiarity. Using the video, of course, it's a nice option, especially with the advanced options. You've got videos prepared with the set of exercises for all the course books that are present, like the Speak Out Roadmap, Business Portal, Goal Experience. So all you can do is you can use the video, you play the video, you press the pause button, and then you ask comprehension questions to the group or to the individual students to see if they follow the activity. Effective note taking, as I said, whenever they go into the academic skills later on, they will be really grateful for having a teacher who paid attention to effective note taking. And the last one, the active listening, as it was in this gap fill activity, sometimes the question might be about the speaker's attitude towards a particular event. So it's not only about understanding the words, but it's also about understanding how a speaker felt, or how does he or she feel towards the case he's talking about. So the active listening activity, not only about the very tangible elements, but the things that you can infer from the context. And as you work with the videos, so you can go for this option, like you play the video, you make a pause button, and you ask the question yourself. Or you can work with the questions which are already prepared. You can slightly edit them, use the curtain so that the students will not see an answer. and you can expand them in various activities. So as the ones that you're looking at right now, they are taken from roadmap. So you've got the while you watch section and after you watch sections, so that the video lesson is expanded into the standard lesson that could take you from the very beginning to the very end, and you work with the video. Or you can just skip it and you can concentrate only on asking comprehension question while they are playing the video. So you press the pause button and you answer the questions. Okay. So these are the key elements that it might be good to convey in the preparation course, and just make sure that the test takers are aware of those elements. Note taking is the key, especially making use of the computer notepad. Okay, so either they can use the computers if it's the online class, or they can use the mobile phone and they can take notes on their mobile phone, just opening the notepad within the mobile phone, so that they will have this option that the notes are taken in a digital format. Okay, what about this activity? Listening and reading, listen and read, which is called the hotspots. You've got the description, and if you could use your reactions to see if this activity is something that your candidates are familiar with. Okay, so they are quite familiar. So you read the text, you listen to the text, and you read at the same time, and the learner has to find the differences between the written text and the spoken text. Usually there are 5 or 6 errors within the text. Okay, the text of course varies when we talk about the length. So the 30, 50, starting with the lower level and going for the 50, 100 words in the advanced level, and usually they will get 2 or 3 item types of this kind. Since it's a digital, since it's computer-based test, so they listen and they repeat, and they need to click on the words which are different. If you think of some of the skills that would be really essential to master this type of activity, I mean a very technical skill. If you were to teach your students one skill at this very moment, I would say that make sure that they know how they operate the cursor on the screen. So once the listening starts, they need to place the cursor at the very beginning of the text, and they need to follow the cursor following the speed of the speaker till the very end. Okay, and once they hear the word that is different, they need to click this word. Okay, so that it becomes yellow. So it means that this word is different. The challenge is that sometimes the test takers might get distracted. Okay, so they might think that, okay, I'm not sure whether this word is the word from the listening or it's not. The moment they start thinking about it, they are trying, in all likelihood, they will lose several other points because the listening won't stop. Okay, so it should be very smooth and following the speed, following the pace of the speaker, of the listening. Okay, if you are not sure, just go forward with the flow. This is one of the key elements to master when it comes to this item type. So there is a recording. This is the instruction that they hear, and you need to click on the words that is different from what you hear. And now what can you do within the class? Okay, there are several elements. The course books, of course, using the listening activities. You can go for the physical activity with the minimal pairs. Minimal pairs, when you Google it, these are the words that are different. They differ in only one sound. Okay, so once you open the internet, you put the minimal pairs, you'll get no shortage of alternatives of these words. And you can create a small list in 2 columns and give the number of the column number 1 and 2. and your students, they need to create a code, just putting the digits in the correct order while you are saying various sentences, or you're building a story using those words. Okay, so imagine I'm just gonna improvise. When I came home, I was all wet and I was really tired because I was working all day, and then I saw a note on the fridge, and it was the first thought that came to my mind that, oh my God, something hard is going on in my life. I didn't know a thing, but I was sure that it was some fat issue between me and my partner. And to the best of my knowledge, I think it was really fast. Okay, this is like improvising, but then once you create a story or a sentence, up to you, depending on the level of the creativity you have, then you ask the students to just to put the codes. Okay, if it's like 1 1 2 2 1 or a different one, and then you can ask them to check the code with their pair, just to compare the answers, so they go for the minimal pairs. Another activity using the transcripts from the recordings, from the video recordings. Once you have access to the teacher's resources, the good news is that they will have a chance. You'll have a chance to download the transcript in Word. And now, since you have the recording and the transcript in Word, the only thing you can do is just you can take out the word and you can replace the word with a different one. Okay, and you have typical computer-based activity using the materials that you have in the teacher's resources, and it's very easy just to remove the word in a Word document and just to save it, and then you play the video with the screen on, with the image on, or with the image off, or a typical listening. And instead of following the instruction from the course book, you ask them to follow the script and to underline the word that is different, and then you can check. Okay. The next activity is the story writing and the group reading. Story writing is like, as you know, this is that they listen to a recording and they need to click the word that is different. So they need to work on their vocabulary, and the story activity might be good for rather advanced classes. So all you need to do is you need to ask them, assign appropriate amount of time, like 10 minutes, and ask them to write a story about something which is out of their interest, but you need to make sure that there is an event in this story. Okay, and once they finish, is astounded, astonished. That was the word that was different in this reading, in this activity, but I cannot play the recording for you, unfortunately. So once they create a story, then the second activity is ask them to make improvements. So make it more graphic and make it more colorful. So either you can ask them to use paper dictionaries, or they can use online dictionaries, since they all have probably the mobile phones. And then they need to add adjectives and adverbs, 1 per sentence, for example. Okay, just to make it more colorful, more graphic, and they need to work on those adjectives. Then, as the next step, you can ask them to rewrite the story. However, in this type, they need to change some of the nouns for the more advanced synonyms. So they go for the paraphrasing in a way. Okay, so they learn the vocabulary while working on the story, and then they can read the story to their partner as a listening activity that the partner could take notes, and then they could report back to the other group about the story. So it's a good skill. It's a good activity, not only about the listening skills, but it's also an excellent about drafting and redrafting for an essay. Okay, so you train for the listening. So they create the story. They need to read the story to their partner. The partner has to take notes, and then they make it more graphic by adding more adjectives and adverbs. So they work on vocabulary and they work on paraphrasing. So they exchange nouns for the more advanced levels. So they use the thesaurus or the synonyms to make it more beautiful. And the last activity is a group reading. So what you can do, because as I told you at the very beginning, it's very important in this activity to stay focused and to follow the pace of the speaker, okay? Because if you lose track, you probably will lose the words because when the stress kicks in, it's difficult to follow, and then well, the students can get into confusion and say, okay, I give up. So how to train this being focused on a particular word, on a particular sentence, the group reading activity. And could I have my two lovely students again, please? Are you there?
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
Ida, are you there?
Yes, I'm
Okay,
here.
so what I want you to do, and Ida, you will start. I want you to start reading the text aloud. And the moment I say a name of a different speaker, so Brigitte, then you need to take over. You have 1 second just to start reading further aloud. And please remember that it will be happening probably somewhere in the middle of the sentences. So you need to be extra careful with following Ida. Okay, Ida, off you go.
Making a choice about what is right and what is wrong is something we all have to do at some time or another. However, sometimes the results of the
right choice and the wrong choice both seem bad. For example, if we see a friend, let's call him Brian, stealing.
Ida?
We know we should report him. That's the right thing to do. On the other hand, we like Brian. He's a nice person. If we report
him, he may get into trouble. We don't want that to happen.
Okay, thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. So this is how you can make the reading text from the course book, but to transform this into activity that would allow them to train this very precise following of the speaker's pace. Okay, just staying in line. And this is a bit different because normally students are might be used to this type of activity. However, that they know that usually they will start when a new sentence opens. By giving them the information that the new person has a second or two just to follow up with reading aloud, and that the name could be given halfway through the sentences, the students will become really extra careful about it. So feel free to experiment with this type of activity and take the reading that is available in your course books. Okay. So some of the pieces of advice for this type of activity. So of course the skimming that we already covered, the very first 10 seconds. Okay, just to skim the text. Moving the cursor that I told you at the very beginning, it's really important just to follow with the cursor and to be really efficient at clicking the word which is new, and don't get distracted if you are not sure. Just go further. Okay. As soon as you hear it, you can click it. Okay. So you need to transfer, you need to teach your students that, okay, they click while they are listening. It's not that they wait till the very end of the activity and then they have time to go back. In all likelihood, they will fail if they choose this strategy. Okay. And the last one, this is listening and writing dictation. Okay. Can you use the reaction button and tell me if they know it quite well? Yes. Okay. They never heard of. Thanks a lot. So they need to listen to a short sentence or a text, and they need to write what they heard. So we had the writing skills on a previous webinar. So I'm gonna tell you what you can do just to train for the listening skills. So you listen to the recording and you hear the recording once only. It's a short text or a short text or a short sentence, usually between the 5 to 11 words, depending on the level. What you can do, of course, using the course book. So while you work with the listening activity, so either you can go for the standard activity that is below the listening, or you can use the activity and you can say, okay, you will hear a sentence. Once you hear the sentence, I want you to write it down. But since this is the computer-based test, typing is of vital importance, okay? So the effective note-taking and effective typing, I would say, is the key. Google the pangrams. These are the sentences that contain all the words of the alphabet. They don't really make sense. Sometimes they are funny, but you will get a lot of examples of the pangrams. The point is that since there are all the letters of the alphabet, once they type it, they will operate whole keyboard. Okay, so they will get used to the location of the particular letter, because probably you know it from a different life scenarios or comedies when person is looking for a letter M on the keyboard, because he or she fails to remember where the M is because she was operating only WASD playing computer games. So the pangrams and telling them how to operate complete keyboard. The second one, since they have to remember the sentence, this is a nice speaking, read, speak, listen, and write. A very good and physical activity. I'm the type of physical activities within the language classroom. You divide the class into groups, and you make pairs within those groups. You've got the writers and you've got the readers. The writers go left, and the readers go right. And then you place a short text, or you put them on the table on the opposite side. And once you give a command start, the readers approach the text, they read it, they try to remember as many details as possible. Then they run to the writers and they need to speak to repeat the text. The writers have to listen and they need to write the text down, okay? So if the reader fails to convey the message, then he or she needs to go back to the text, read it again, come back to the writer and write it down. And the winning group, of course, is the group which first finishes the whole passage, the whole paragraph, depending on the level. And of course, it's rather about speaking quietly, because if they shout, they will probably, they might be using the words from the other group. And this is something we don't want to have within this activity. So telling them, okay, you need to speak quietly because you're working in pairs and they are racing against each other. One of the options. 20 words, you take the unit that you're working on right now. It could be the nouns, it could be the adjectives, it could be the adverbs, up to you, or it could be the words related to a unit you are dealing with. For example, the tourism, the geography, the biology, whatever the unit is. You prepare the set of 20 words. For the advanced group, you could reduce the words with the lower level students. You read out the words, they listen carefully with their eyes closed, and then probably you know it, the task is they need to recreate all the words. So this activity trains them to build a visual image of a word inside their head, and then they have to recreate all the words. Of course, the winning students is the students with the biggest amount of the correct words on a piece of paper. Go for mnemonic devices in the internet. I think on my webinar, I suggested one of the book by Tony Buzan about training the memory, because this is the element that comes in handy when you deal with this particular item type, okay? And the tips for you to remember. So focusing on the meaning of a sentence, building the visual image of a sentence, it usually helps to remember. And you can try to type in the first place the content words, the keywords, so that you'll have to recreate the complete sentences once the listening is over, okay? Or some students prefer to write the complete sentence from the very beginning. And the time really matters here. So then you'll have a chance to work on the spelling elements once you finish writing the sentences. And the final part, as I said with the reading, make sure that you will have this listening DNA. So you can work with your students, with individual students or with groups, and telling them that once they watch news and they use Netflix, or they use their favorite vlogs or blogs on the things that are really interesting for them as a person, just to go for the English language with subtitles or without subtitles. When you work within the class, I remember one of the teachers I knew, what they did is when we had the speaking activity, just they told us to stand up, they stand next to each other and to engage in peer-to-peer conversation, but they were usually playing the music, or they were using, you can use the Spotify and you can Google the restaurant sounds or the noisy street sound, and you can play the sound for them to work in this particular reality. Because on the one hand, you'll teach them this immense concentration, the ability to hear out the keywords, the information they need to get, and at the same time not being distracted by other people standing next to them and doing this speaking activity, and not being instructed by a waiter serving the other table. So it's a nice warm-up activity for a speaking activity, but it's also great for the listening activity when they are not sitting in a complete silence. Okay, so please remember that once you're using the course book, and since it's computer-based test, there are you can easily adapt the materials that you already have in the course books to teach for the computer-based test. And some of the activities are already prepared within those books, and they reflect the activities that that appear in the computer-based test. Okay, so it's all about using the course book effectively, plus using the resources which are available on our website. And just a final reminder, please remember that once your candidates take computer-based test, they get a certificate, but they also get a Credly badge that they can use on the LinkedIn, for example, to share it out once they will get this professional market. So that will be all when it comes to the listening section. Please remember that don't go for everything. Just feel free to experiment with some of the activities, see the results, and just make your language learning and the language teaching as rich as possible by offering variety. Thank you. Enjoy the rest of your day.